Hi, I'm Leon Gorin, president of PEO Leadership, a peer-to-peer leadership advisory firm. We're an amazing community of CEOs, presidents, and senior executives. Ask yourself, are you learning as fast as the world is changing? It's time for Ontario business leaders to band together for counsel and support. It's time for you to tap into the business wisdom of our peer groups and unlock new ways to grow. I want you to come out of this COVID crisis a better leader and your organization ready for what's next. Take the first step at peo-leadership.com. Happy New Year. I'm Leon Gorin, CEO of PEO Leadership, and welcome to the 2022 kickoff of the Way Forward and live webcast series. Now, this is going to be an unusual kickoff because we're not going to actually be live here, but many of you are just listening to us on our podcast and also on our YouTube videos. But we have something very special for you this month. We're bringing you one of our closed-door interviews that took place at our November PEO Leadership Conference called Forward Together. Now, I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll introduce our guests, and then I'm going to hand it over to them. But before I do that, just want to introduce PEO Leadership if this is the first time you're listening to us or joining us. So listen, if you're a CEO, a president, a business owner, or a corporate executive looking to grow your leadership capabilities and performance, and of course, grow your organization, then you're looking to the right place. In this rapidly changing business landscape, the importance of expanding your connections and having insightful and meaningful conversations with the right peers is now more important than ever. At PEO Leadership, our members include some of North America's strongest leaders representing almost every industry. They lead both SMEs and multinational organizations. The leaders of our organizations understand the value and importance of being able to connect and think with each other as they all work very hard to successfully achieve their personal, professional, and organization's growth goals. As we kick off a new year, I want you to sit back and think. If you're thinking about the future of your business, and as leaders we often do, and how you're going to navigate through the many unknowns that lie ahead, then you should be speaking with us. If you're thinking about your stakeholders and your employees and how you'll continue to engage, inspire, and support them, then you should be speaking to us. Whether you're the CEO or whether you got an executive team and a senior leadership team that you're looking to inspire and engage. We got different programs designed for both. And if you're thinking about whether and how you should pivot your business and understand the importance of being able to step outside of your organization and learn from others, then once again, I'm hoping you're going to reach out and speak to us. You can reach out at any time. Our website is peo-leadership.com. We have a number of different programs geared to CEOs, presidents, country managers, and of course, those senior leader executives that hopefully are part of your succession plan. So please feel free to reach out to us through the contact page on our website. All right, so here we go. As we launch 2022, this is going to be, as I said, a little bit different. And what we've done by taking our November conference and actually taping it live in front of an audience. Now, this interview I didn't conduct, but one of our members who's been with us for more than 10 years actually ran the interview, and she's excellent. Sarah Beach is Gallagher's Areas President in Toronto. Sarah plays an integral role in building, developing, and managing new and existing client and industry relationships. She has more than 30 years' experience in the benefits industry. She began her career as an underwriter with a major Canadian insurance company. She joined Hewitt Associates, a global human resource and outsourcing firm in 1990, where eventually she led the benefits consulting practice and later the entire Canadian consulting operation. She joined Gallagher in 2012 through the merger of a partner, Compass. Now, Sarah's a member of the advisory board of Benefits Canada magazine and is a frequent spokesperson and author on the topic of employee benefits, including articles and interviews in the Globe and Mail, and speaking engagements such as the Economic Club of Canada, the Conference Board of Canada, and of course, the PEO Leadership Conference. Sarah's a member of the Corporate Industry Council for Homeward Bound. She's a graduate of McGill University in Montreal. Now, Sarah will be conducting the interview, and she's, like I said, absolutely fantastic. Now, who's she interviewing? Tiziana Casciaro, who is a professor of organizational behavior at Rotman and the holder of the Marcel Desautels Chair in Integrative Thinking at the University of Toronto. Her research explores how structural and psychological forces jointly shape behavior in organizations. Her work on organizational networks, power dynamics, change implementation, and professional networking is published in the Harvard Business Review and featured in The Economist, Financial Times, Washington Post, Huffington Post, USA Today, Forbes, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBC Radio, Fortune, and Time. Professor Casciaro has served as senior editor at Organization Science. Her awards include the Outstanding Publication in Organizational Behavior Award of the Academy of Management and Thinkers 50 Rater list of the 30 management thinkers in the world most likely to shape the future of how organizations are managed and led. This past August, Tiziana co-authored with Julie Battilana, The Power for All, How It Really Works and Why It's Everyone's Business. Well, I want you all to enjoy the interview, and please leave us a note or two or present us with some comments after you listen to it. Enjoy. Take care. Special thanks to Focus Asset Management for helping us bring you today's PEO Leadership's Way Forward podcast.
She has a lot of influence, she has a lot of insight, she's done a lot of research. That's her formal title, but I'll tell you a few things about Tiziana. She's lived in Canada since 2007 and she comes from Italy.
Yes to both. Yes to both.
She is a voracious reader to the point where she has anxiety that books may topple over on top of her during the night.
Yeah, they might.
She is also a mom of 2 teenagers, a son and a daughter. And I think for all of us, we get a lot of inspiration. We have a lot of questions about our own children. So really well-rounded person, a lot of fun, and we look forward to talking to her. Just so you know, who the heck am I and why am I up here?
She's pretty amazing too, I guess.
I'm Sarah Beach. I am the executive president. My title's changed lots of times. Executive president for Gallagher. Gallagher is an employee benefit or total rewards consulting firm. We also are a risk business as well. I have been a member of PEO. Michelle, you've been longer than me, but I've 14, 15 years, I think. So the power of engaging with all of you is something that I really and truly believe in. And so thanks for letting me have this great honor this afternoon. So let's get started. So while the rest of us were watching Netflix night and day, eating too much, having a bit too much wine, doing some puzzles, maybe playing some games, doing some arts and crafts, eventually buying a Peloton, this lovely woman made a decision to write a book. Well, we were all doing those other things. So why?
Yeah, but your legs are better than mine, I'm sure, because of the Peloton.
I'm trying.
Your posture is better than mine. I mean, here you are going like, yeah. It's like, God, the muscles. I just see a year and a half like this.
I don't want to get old.
It's destroyed all form. So I'm trying to emulate Sarah here.
So why'd you write the book?
Oh, good question. Why that nightmare of a choice? Julie and I, Julie is French, by the way, even though she lives in Boston. And she and I had both seen too many talented people play some role in some organization and become frustrated with being unable to push things in the direction that they thought was a good direction, exercising influence over the people that they needed to bring along to get to certain places. And this applied to the young professional that maybe gets an MBA and then rejoins the workforce full of desire to do things, and they get stuck.
I remember those days.
Remember? Yeah. Or if they don't get stuck, they find it challenging to understand the infamous politics of the workplace. And then we see the mid-career person who's done some good things, but just there's an aspiration level that is not necessarily met. Then you see the CEO. Who's the CEO in here? Who is a C-suite? Oh, yeah. Look at you guys. Okay. Have you ever experienced having an idea that you think is actually damn good, and your people just won't do it? Anyone? There you go. Despite the mane of curly hair you have, my friend, you put me to shame. I thought I had something going on, but I got nothing going on. It just, yeah, well, there you go. I had to make up with something, So all of these people that I think encounter more problems than they should, and they do because power is so misunderstood. If you feel like, oh, poor power, so misunderstood. No, but truly, we have very misplaced ideas about what power is or should be. And then we have another group that is not necessarily represented of the really young people, the Gretas of the world, even though Greta can teach us lessons left and right, that want to make the world a better place. They really, really, really do. And don't know where to start, unless they're Greta, then she knows where to start. But all these people, they needed a little bit of guidance. And hopefully, we wrote the book in a way that when you do get the measure of power you wish to have, you will use it well. Because it's a weapon. And like every weapon, you can use it to build and defend and construct, and you can use it to destroy. And so construction, please. That's what I hope you want as much as I do.
So I think we're going to focus on that construction side of things. But you just said you need to understand what power is. So how do you and Julie define power? Because I think that's a really good place to set the stage. That's right. And you're right, it needs to be defined. It's actually quite simple. The basics are super simple. Power is quite simply the capacity to influence the behavior of others. That's it. And it's neutral. It's totally neutral. If you can influence them this way or that way, you can influence them through persuasion, just building a picture that is attractive and they want to go with you because that picture is so interesting and good for them. You can influence with coercion. You must, and if you don't, then you are in trouble. All of that is possible. It's within the definition. Yeah. Okay. So the question is, where does it come from, the influence? I was about to say. Right. So then you concluded that all of us have power. But there's two versions of it. There are two versions. So Power for All is one of those titles that you go like, what are you talking about? By definition, it cannot be for all. So what can be for all is an understanding. Sorry about my cough. I am allergic to the flora of North America. All of it, it turns out. I never cough when I'm in Europe, so you know what, I'm going to retire. That's like a long 14 years of coughing. It's actually longer than that because I moved to the States in the 90s when I was a child, an advanced child. So yeah, it's been interesting ever since. So if I cough, I don't have COVID, folks. I am gazillion vaccinated and all that. What was the question? Talk too much. No. What was it? You talked great. The question was, you came to a conclusion about power and that we all have it, but it presents itself in different ways. Yeah, so a couple of things around that. One, what we can all have is an understanding of it. We can all understand that you have power when you control access to something that somebody else wants. And by controlling access, I mean you have something I want, and I can only get it through you, or very few. Because if you have something I want, but I can get it for anyone in this room, you don't have much leeway over me because I don't depend on you. What's the for all bit? Mm-hmm. You start to see it when you understand that there's always another side to the power relationship.
So, sorry, my fellow curly-haired, Sharon. Sharon, you're going to be my sparring partner throughout, okay? So Sharon has something that I want, and I cannot get it very easily elsewhere. So I depend on you. You have power over me. Does that mean that I have no power over you? Not necessarily. I could also have something that you want, Sharon, and I may not be replaceable all that much. You see, it's a mutual dependence situation. And that already debunks one of the assumptions that we make all the time, and especially you guys in leadership positions, and therefore with some power, maybe not as much as you would like, but some of it, you have to abandon the idea that power is a zero-sum game. That the moment you give some power to your people, that you are automatically losing your influence over them. That is not how power works. In that sense, it's for all because it's very much relational. It's in the moment. In this moment, Sharon has something I want. I want to know what products she uses. Okay? So I need to exploit this moment that I have her in the room, and I'm sitting high up. So it's like, tell me what your products are. Because the moment I step out, I may never find you again, and but I'll also lose my dependence on you because you're gone. So I have to find somebody else. So it's very situational, it's in the moment, and it's very relational. I don't have power in the absolute, I have power in the specifics of what you want at this point in time, what I want at this point in time, and where we can get it if we have alternatives.
So I'm going to ask you a question now that I was thinking of asking you later because I think it's really relevant. So we can't help every day to wake up, all of us, and go, there's a war for talent. That there's a talent shortage. We've heard it for my entire career, but right now we're really hearing it. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I think lots of us are feeling that our employees have power over us. So we can't, if we dare, in our company, I have teams saying, well, Sarah, you can't ask them to come back to work because they'll go somewhere else. They'll leave us. You can't touch the fragility of the employment relationship. So how do we look at that scenario where, traditionally, as employers, we try to be good people and we foster good relationships and we bring people along, but yes, we give people raises and promotions and opportunities, but we haven't tended to feel handcuffed, that we can't make a decision for fear of flight, or we can't make a decision for fear of a bad, commentary on Glassdoor or anywhere else. So I think most of you in the room would feel the way I'm describing right now. So I think it's a super interesting piece around power.
It really is. How much time do we have?
No. We have 45 minutes.
Okay. Try to go shorter than that. Because this opens up a lot of conversations. So the first one has to do with distinguishing between knowledge workers and everybody else. Because this feeling of being overwhelmed by being under the thumb of these people is really considered on mostly on knowledge workers. And especially in a time when, we've learned that we can connect remotely. We learned that we can work from our home back, in some, not in the middle of downtown. And these people can just move around. So they have certainly grown in alternatives that they've got. And in that sense, yes, they have more power in the power. Remember, that doesn't mean that you don't have any power over them, right? Because they might still want very much something you can offer. That's where your job changes. You now have to be more thoughtful about what is it that these people value. Because once you understand what they value, you are going to find ways to deliver it that keep them dependent on you, because they cannot necessarily find those things elsewhere. That opens, chapter 3 of the book. What do people value? So you have to understand human nature to be a good user of power. And this is where I start to remind everybody that as much as we're pushing our children to go to STEM fields and professions, there's something about reading Shakespeare and Dante that is irreplaceable, because they teach you about human nature. And then you will know what is up with these young professionals, with all these demands, all of this BS they're throwing at me all the time, because they want this, or they want that. What you're seeing is people that have that category. Okay, then we're going to talk about the people who got nothing, because there are many of those. There are, yeah. We forget a little bit. Another bit of research that we can mention.
We focus a lot these days on these people over here.
Yes, very much.
I find.
Well, because they have more
conversation.
power, right?
Yeah.
That's why we focus on people with power, not people who don't have it. But we lose out a lot. So there are so many strands here that I'm opening all at the same time, and I should not do that, because one thing that we've learned is that you have to structure the flow in these things. But you have to learn what they want. These folks, their return to work is a good example. What is up with their pushback on you telling them you should return to work, you should not return to work, because there are also companies that don't want them to return to work also, right? So it goes in all kinds of directions. One of the things that people value tremendously, in addition to the things that are obvious, we all value material resources to some extent. I would rather wear a nice suit than an ugly one. All right, okay? Material, fine, and it's fine.
I would rather wear sweatpants than a suit.
That's the other side of the.
And by the way, that's not me. Anyone who knows me, but that's out there.
That's a very good point. It's very well taken. That's right. So we understand all of that. And for sure, the pursuit of material resources is at the root of a lot of power dynamics in the world. And when they tell you follow the money, they're right. The money tells you a lot about what goes on in the world, including places where you think it's more ideological. It's not, it's money. Afghanistan, it's money. Okay, let's forget all of these strata that we put on top of it. But people value other things as well. One of the other things, more psychological resources people really value is autonomy. Autonomy is enormously important to your people. The more sophisticated, the more knowledge-intensive the work, but you'll be surprised, even when it's not particularly knowledge-intensive, the capacity to have control over your choices as a human being, of deciding how you're going to carry out your work, and being able to contribute ideas. Because I happen to talk to the damn customer. I hear what they have to say. Can I please, will you give me a channel so that I can actually reshape how we do this in a better way, versus shoving things down to me, top down. Autonomy is huge. The decision to work from home or not fits right in that
bucket.
So I have 2 children. Many people have children or have demands. Have an elderly parent, and they have or they maybe have a hobby that makes them happy. They want to play tennis in the middle of the freaking day. Okay? Should you let them? Yes, probably. Because they're going to come home after their game from 11 to 12, totally pumped, unless they lost in that case. It's unclear. But I mean, they might very well come home energized. Or they know they've taken care of something family-wise that was on their mind, was totally distracting, totally depleting. There could be an array of things. Then you worry. Well, but if they're at home, masters of their own time, I don't have an eye on them, I don't know what's happening. And there is a legitimate concern, right, that they may not use that time particularly well. That's where you expand your view. What else do people value? We value a sense of accomplishment. We value a sense of achievement. Pretty much everybody. People vary. By the way, we're going to put up a test on our website of the book. By next week, it's going to be up, where you can measure the relative importance for you of this need for achievement, the desire to accomplish, which means progress, the sense of increasing learning and mastery, that I become a little bit better at something today. Anybody golfs around here? Any golfers? Why didn't you go and practice your putting? Why?
So you get better.
Are you going to become the next golfing champion? No.
Absolutely not.
You do it because you want to get better. That's the need for achievement.
So far, it's not working so well.
But you keep trying, baby. You keep
I
trying.
do.
Yeah. You know, everybody has their own thing, whatever it may be. You're a gardener. You want your garden to improve it just a tad. That is achievement. Most people have at least a little bit of that. So if I am allowed to be at home and work, how likely is it that I will just lie on the sofa the entire day, every day, and do nothing? Not very high, because it's damn boring, and because I accomplish nothing. So, provided they have clear goals, expectations about what they're supposed to be doing, provided they have feedback, they deliver something, and you go, well, you know, it could be better for these reasons, because your work affects these people down the line. And so then, you know, you're going to really put them in difficult situations. You know, you give them a sense of how they're interdependent with others. It's unlikely that they're going to slack off the entire time, unless they're confused about what you want them to do.
So clarity is
Clarity.
really important.
Expectations have to be very clear, and feedback. Good, you know, regular feedback in the moment is very important. You
Yeah,
totally
go for it.
So feedback is kind of an impossibility these days as well, unless the feedback is positive, because the marketplace is what it is today.
Yes.
So now you can't ask them to come back to the office if they don't necessarily want to. You can't give feedback because they really are in control and they have all of the power. So how do you take that opportunity to offer feedback in a way, and I know we all do it in a flowery way, but in a way that you still can maintain some power and control over the situation?
Yeah. You have to remember what gets them going. And the people that respond like that to feedback are often very ambitious people. They don't like to fail. That's a high need for achievement personality right there. You're surrounded with people like that. What you need to do is deliver that feedback with the lure. It was what we psychologists call a promotion focus. So you can motivate people on the two pathways. One is prevention focus, the other one is promotion focus. And I'm going to take a bit of a detour to answer your question, because I think it's helpful to shape your mindset around how to give feedback. Prevention focus is motivation by avoiding something bad. If you don't do that, I will punish you, or I will deprive you of something. Okay. Promotion focus is motivation by the prospect of something good. So with a kid, you can say, if you do really, really, really well in school this year, we are going to Disneyland, assuming that they care. I mean, I don't even know what kids want these days. Talk about understanding human nature, I have no idea. But they want things, okay?
Don't we have to ask?
Yeah,
You just taught us that.
That's right. Good job. Quick study right there. Or you can say, if you don't do well in school this year, you're so losing your privileges for whatever it may be. That's prevention focus. The employee who is so upset when they get negative feedback reacts much more positively if you give the feedback with the prospect of them advancing. So I see the potential for you to be that, to be the best of that, to advance in this way, to take on this role, to embrace this challenge and excel. What takes you there are these three things. So you have told me that moment that you believe in me. You see gorgeousness. We need to kind of use the scalpel a little bit better around that glorious Tuscan marble that you are. to let the beauty come out. I know that it can be a little bit, it's work. But giving feedback is work regardless. Might as well give it in a way that is more constructive in their eyes, because what they really want, okay, they may want more money, they may want more autonomy, they may want a bunch of things, but they also want a workplace and a leader that allows them to be the best that they can be. They really do, most of these people. It's just hard work to do.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And one of the things you wrote in the book was it's about all of us as leaders also having that humility. So it becomes a two-way street. So you asked about giving feedback. So one of the things in the book says, it's just this very powerful statement. Leaders are unaware of how impossible they make it for people to tell them something they did wrong. So in the scenario that we've just been talking about, is part of it is showing the example? Are teams looking for us to be in the same position as them? So they are empowered to give us feedback, or their managers or the business about how the business could be better, how the people could be better. But if we're not open to it, then why would they be open to feedback from us?
That is absolutely correct, and this is a leader speaking, and I appreciate that. I really do. We are quite unaware of our own power, actually, in many ways, and how we project it. So there are many indicators of this. We all think we are poorer than we are. When you ask people to place themselves on a scale of how much money, how much wealth you have, people, especially the wealthy, put themselves lower, not because they want to be modest, because they truly think that they have less than they actually do compared to the rest of the population. I was traumatized when one of the, I will not mention which one of the CEOs of one of the big banks said that the average balance on a bank account of the average Canadian is like $200. I forgot. I was a student once, and I kind of lived kind of like that. I forgot. I don't even think about $200.
No,
Well,
never. I sit on my couch and I order, from Amazon or wherever else.
Yes.
I don't think about it.
you don't think about it. But we are a very, 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 very small minority that can afford to not think about it. A lot of other people have to think about every dollar. So we are unaware of the power we have and how it comes across. We are also sometimes a little insecure in our own power. So the notion of making it easy for our people lower down, to come and say, Tiziana, yeah, I saw you at the PO event. Well, great. Can I offer a little advice? And I go, well, who the hell are you to offer me a little advice? I'm a pro here. What are you doing? But that's insecurity, right? If I really am secure, I go, absolutely give me the advice. In fact, I ask all of you, when we finish, come up to me, not only to sign the book, but also to say what we could have done better, right, today. So there is a bit of personal growth that we have to do, and realization that actually the research is unequivocal. The power differential, the power imbalance tends to result in lower outcomes for the collective prosperity. This is true.
So when power resides predominantly either with leadership or either with all of these employees that we're worried about, productivity sucks.
Yeah. You want
boil the
more
ocean.
the mutuality that Sharon and I have. Let's say we have it. Is actually like this, right? It's actually very conducive to prosperity of the system as a whole, as opposed to power concentration. It doesn't work in interpersonal relationships. So if my leader is way asymmetrically powerful over me, what happens is that this process by which you make it impossible for me to convey something upward that is not pleasant becomes very, very high. It's very difficult to do.
So then what are some of the almost tactics or suggestions you have for us to create this more, I mean, I guess it's a non-traditional metric of power where it's more balanced as opposed to unbalanced. So what can we walk away with today?
Right. Well, I would say, first of all, really embrace the idea that a less unequal distribution of power makes your life better in the long run also. This is true, by the way, at the level of the economic system. Fabulous research people don't use, looking at economies from, some of them from the mid-1800s, some of them from around the world wars, over decades and decades and decades. That shows that the greater the inequality, economic, in a system, the lower the growth economically of the system over time. And the question, so for you as a leader, like, translates from a high level down to your relationship with your employees, your people that are dependent on you. So what to do? You have to cultivate two qualities in you, and I know enough about lack of self-control I have, otherwise I would run every day, and I certainly do not. Okay, so self-control, maybe you're better than me, probably. It's actually easy to be better than me, but it's hard to count on, right? So you want systems as well around you to keep you sane and to keep you directed. So humility and empathy are the two things you need to counteract the two poisons of power. Power poisons us in two ways. It makes us very self-focused because, again, you don't need to think about the little people because you don't depend on them. That's why we keep talking about the knowledge workers that we know that are, because they have power over us. We don't think about so many people that work these horrendous jobs for horrendous pay. They have to work 2 full-time jobs to make ends meet. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. They live like that. Do we think about them? On occasion. We don't think about people that don't have power because we don't depend on them. So we become very self-focused. So you have to counter, meaning you can do this after the conference today. You can Google reading the mind in the eyes. It's a test that exposes you just to eyes. Actually, they remove glass so that you can really see. But you get just a rectangle of the eyes of a person. And your job is to understand what emotion they're feeling, right? In that moment.
You okay?
It's a measure of empathy. And it's the queen of measures of empathy. The more powerful the person, the lower the empathy.
Always? Or can we fix it?
There's always a distribution.
Okay.
So, people vary. But the effect of power is to lower your level of empathy. You can absolutely fix it by being reminded that if you don't understand the people you lead, you are screwed. Can I use such language?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just did, and we're being recorded too, so now I can't even take it back.
It's all good.
Oh, well, there you go. So you need to understand the people you lead. And not understanding and going like, oh my God, they're so annoying. They might be, by the way. I'm not denying that sometimes these people can be really annoying. You know why? Because they forgot how privileged they are themselves. And you go like, honey, you are one of those children that grew up having a big birthday party at age 5, 6, 7 with 25,000 presents on that day. When there are people who barely get one present, perhaps, right? Maybe. They're in Toronto.
I know.
My daughter went from being a fencer, like, who she didn't like, to be a skateboarder. Totally different world. And literally, she has come home saying, oh my God, that kid, it was his birthday today, And the mother is a single mother, working 2 jobs as usual, and gave him a little something. He wanted new trucks for the board. You know the metal things. Couldn't get them. So the kids chipped in. So my daughter comes in and says, "Mom, how much can you give me?" Oh my God, right? That's what I'm talking about. So these annoying people, they come with all these demands. Sometimes they do because they have forgotten themselves how to live. So how to remind them? The systems.
That was
right?
what I was going to say. And is it, I mean, we need to own that as an employer, because if we don't change the paradigm, then it's this vicious cycle of what we've been talking about, where we feel we have no control.
I mentioned a couple of things. Just 3 things that I find they go to the core, and they're simple, and you can do them. One is put them through really, really, really humble roles in your organization for the first whatever months of employment. You hire them as managers or whatever. For the first 3 months, they shall be down in whatever down means. It could be a call center agent. You answer the calls of angry people. They never call to tell you, "Oh, I love you a lot. I use your service," and I'm like, "Oh my." They don't do that. But
if they do, you fall off your chair.
They call and say, "What is the effing problem with all y'all that you can't deliver a decent service?" And the poor agent we have a story about that. Somebody who made a point of actually transforming the life of these call center agents, and in the process, by the way, improved performance dramatically. Okay? Just saying that the thing it comes back to support you. So put them in a position where they see on their own skin what it means to work those jobs and live life like that. Number 1. Second thing, how do you measure performance? I mean, every company is different. Every job is different. So, of course, you have to adapt it to your situation. But I love what Microsoft has done recently. They have abandoned the typical rating with the typical criteria, 1 to 5, la, la, la. And they focus on a few questions. 2 of them are wonderful. They say, how has the work and effort and ideas of others helped you this year? Second question, how has your work, effort, and ideas contributed to the work of others this year? Those questions are magic because they are reminders of our interdependence. So all of those stars that come to Sharon, bitching and moaning, need to be reminded that they are not stars alone. They're not fabulous alone. Their talent only goes so far because we perform jobs that are too complex for any one of us to shine in without the help of others, all of us. So the reminder of, you need them, and by the way, they need you. And when you screw up, you screw them up. And when you don't deliver, you are actually making the whole endeavor fall apart. But it's both ways.
No, those questions are amazing. It's so much more insightful than the 20 pages.
Absolutely. And then they have a third one. The third one is more conventional, I find. What could you have done better? Which is the humility piece, right? As much as you've done great, if you could change something, if you could improve something, what would it be? I like the humility bit. And the humility you can measure. One more, and then I'll open up. You can measure humility. So I think I'm humble. In fact, I'm the humblest person you'll ever meet. It's like if you ask me, I'm glad you got that. If you ask me, we are all a little egomaniacal. That's the truth. We think,
That's fair.
We think we're pretty damn cool. Except when
Or we
don't.
try really hard.
Or we don't. So you can measure it, especially for people in leadership. But even, especially some of these young professionals that are full of sense of self. Measure what their team says about their humility. There are questions you can ask. You know, in any 360, you can just insert these questions. They're simple questions. This person recognizes when somebody's contribution is better than their own.
That is not a standard question in
It's
anything
not.
I've ever seen. Has anyone
So-
else ever used that question?
There are, you know, and if I receive that feedback every year, and it turns out that you guys think I am pretty damn arrogant, actually, that I don't say those things, that I think I say all the time, that takes me down a notch, a little bit. So those you can measure, you can kind of intervene in your systems so that you don't rely on me being a wise person and becoming a Buddhist, which I think we all should, at some level, kind of be, but it's very hard to do. I can't meditate. I can't stop, and I can't do it. So give me a measurement system that reminds me that I need you, that you need me, that, as Martin Luther King put it, we're all tied in a single garment of destiny. Language like that, you're not going to find in the book, so don't even try. Please.
So my question is, I love those questions, they're amazing. When is a good time to ask those questions?
So the textbook way to run a process of this kind is to have 2 cycles, 6 months apart. One is evaluative, one is developmental. And you want to separate the two, because the moment you put the developmental close to the evaluative, people freak out, and they can't really cultivate themselves when they know those bonuses or those promotion decisions, all those things that you know, they're very tangible, come around. But I find it very difficult. It's very difficult to realistically have 2 cycles. It's so time-consuming to do all of this stuff. So that's why I like the Microsoft bit, because they just do it in the evaluation. They ask those questions right there and then when they're being evaluative, because they say that's really what matters about what you do.
So when you say that, do you mean it's when the employee's having a performance review?
Yeah,
So that's when they're asking.
that's my understanding. And you know, if you have friends in the Microsoft world, you can ask for confirmation, but that's my understanding. They just don't do it the other way, because you can't get people to change mindset about their role and how interdependent. Again, you know, the mutuality of dependency and power is so important to make us all better. I don't really want to have unilateral power over you, because it's only under certain very restricted conditions that I can really squeeze that lemon. And people do. You have a lot of people who have squeezed the system for a long time. They are billionaires or gazillionaires, and they really, really would like to have a few more billions, because having only 100 billion, honestly, what do you do with that? You know? But when the asymmetry becomes big, the people who didn't have power, the moment they have a little bit of a chance to stick it to you, they will. My own research has shown it in the context of profit making in the US economy. At the moment I have a lot of asymmetric power, and these guys at the bottom gain a little measure of it, they are so angry at you for having misused your power that they will refuse to do business. What's the name of Tim Sweeney is the CEO and founder of Epic Games, Fortnite. Anybody has children who play Fortnite like maniacs? Anyone? Who plays Fortnite? Who knows about Fortnite? Okay. So that's a good example. Apple and Google have squeezed game makers for a long time, because to sell on their platform, they take 30%. That is a ridiculous percentage. And these guys don't have much power, so they have to just be there. They just have to take it. But Tim Sweeney, thanks to the success of Fortnite, has gained a measure of power, something, right? Because it's one of the most popular games there is. And so he has basically started to sell the game outside those platforms. Right. Apple and Google have promptly sued him. They're suing each other. It's been like a festival for lawyers. So everybody loses.
So really, the lawyers have the power.
Well, the lawyers complain all the time they don't have enough power. I'm actually being called to New York Harvard Club in February to talk to a bunch of lawyers who are complaining.
Really?
About the weak power position. Yes.
Fascinating.
Isn't it? Yeah. You should go and say, you guys, you're the ones.
I always feel like
they have all the power. Exactly. So this is to say that everybody's losing because all of these lawsuits are not good for anyone, but they do it anyway yeah, fine. I won't do business with you. I don't care if I lose as long as I can. So that's a dynamic that often occurs. That makes more balance and more openness, and the fact that, yes, it can be annoying to have to listen to all these people with their demands. But then your work is to develop them as better people. Not an easy thing to do.
What I love about PEO leadership right now is how well our members are supporting each other and rising to face the COVID-19 challenge.
Paul Zadorsky, Senior Vice President, Crayola International.
Business is all about being able to rapidly adapt to change, but how do you learn as fast as the world changes?
PEO leadership lets you tap into the collective wisdom of some of Canada's top executives.
Having that peer group and broader leadership community to lean on, it makes all the difference.
The time to step up and lead is now. Go to peo-leadership.com.
I saw a hand. I was dreaming a hand. Yes, please.
I was going to ask about the frequency. Like, if I'm correct here, they're mentioning about once a year. But do you feel that once a year, like a lot of times when employees get feedback once a year, it kind of gets forgotten, and maybe a higher frequency?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. So I would make a distinction between a kind of formal process and informal feedback. The formal process only because there's such an infrastructure around it that takes up a lot of time. And if you can do it twice a year, formal process, one purely developmental, one purely evaluative, ideally you should do that. But you're absolutely right that feedback should be way, way more frequent than that. The one thing I like about Goldman Sachs is a little saying that they use all the time. You might have heard it or use it yourself. Feedback on the run is better than none. Have you heard of this one? All the time. All the time. So when I walk out with Sarah, I'm going to ask you, what are we doing wrong with this book? What could we do better? Because we poured our hearts into this thing, but it has to reach the people. It has to reach the people we wrote it for. What can we do? What are we getting wrong here, right? I have to ask. But if I don't ask, you as a leader,
I'm not going to say anything.
You're not going to say anything. So there's a bit of a culture of feedback. Some companies do it better than others. McKinsey does it really well, lo and behold, to the point that anybody has worked with or in McKinsey? Anyone know? I have my husband was at McKinsey for 15 years. And it's very interesting to observe the culture of feedback where it becomes such default that after any encounter, any meeting, whatever, people give each other feedback. And they're so it's not personal, right? It's just the task at hand and it's so normalized that it becomes part of it. But I've seen companies and managers, even not particularly high-flying managers, just relatively contained in terms of their role, that do it all the time.
My first consulting organization did that all the time. Mm-hmm. It was the days you got in the car with a senior person and you carried the bag and you had all the material, you went to the meeting and you were terrified, and then you did the meeting and we got back in the car And he'd turn to me, or she'd turn to me and say, okay, so how'd that meeting go? And I'm like, you want me to tell you how it went? How do you think you did? How did I do? And I worked in that organization for 20 years, and it was the greatest experience. It was a very flat organization, non-hierarchical, and I learned a ton from that. And I think we lose that. We're virtual, we're rushed, we don't jump in the car with someone anymore. So how do you make those experiences happen in today's environment?
So I will say that you use whatever research is out there that actually helps you. There's one new study that I really love from two colleagues and friends that do wonderful things. Amy Edmondson actually is the background, which are on psychological safety. And Adam Grant wrote with this junior co-author this paper. Here's what they found. So in psychological safety, people say that you have to be seeking feedback, right? And be productively responsive, because if I sought the feedback, you gave it to me, and then I go like, well, I'm clearly a little annoyed. Next time around, not so much. You're gonna give it. So the question becomes, what's more productive in terms of making the feedback loop really, really good and sustainable? Is it you seeking the feedback and responding appreciatively? Or
and doing something with it.
She's one of my favorite leaders. I'm touching a lot. I'm sorry.
It's totally cool.
The Italian comes out.
It's all good.
It's a lot of touching that happens. I'm actually a little traumatized, I have to say, when I bump into Italians at conferences that I haven't now in a long time, because we all know. And some of these colleagues, I forget. They're all like, Tiziana! And it's all like okay! Jeez! I've become a little Canadian this way. But what they said, is it seeking the feedback and responding appreciatively, or is it taking that feedback and going back to those people a bit later, saying, okay, I can't see, I'm pretty blind. What's your name? I can't. Stefania. I can pronounce that. I come back to you, Stefania, 2 weeks later, a month later, and I say, Stefania, you remember when you told me this? So this is what we're thinking of doing about that. But I wanted to make sure before that this addresses the point, so that real actual follow-up. Unsurprisingly, to leaders like Sarah, it's the latter that does the trick. So it's not enough to seek the feedback, even though it's better than not seeking it, because otherwise people don't give it to you, is to show that you heard it and you are acting on it. And the action could also be, listen, I thought about it, and here where I think the constraints are that I don't think it's going to work. What do you think? That's a productive conversation. It's the action.
But ignoring it completely is useless.
Yeah, because also
and then the power shifts back.
The power shifts back. Yeah.
You had a question, I think.
I had a question. You were talking about, I love all your questions, by the way, but a lot of us are hiring in-demand tech talent. And so they have 3-4 offers. They're going to get calls even once you hire them. So I'd be curious your thoughts on how to have some power over those folks, and you can't really put them in the mundane task kind of thing. What would you suggest around that?
Yeah.
Retain them once you actually get them on.
Right. Chapter 3. Okay. And then I would also say, so what you see the Googles of the world do, they give them, and the Apples of the world, they give them all of these accoutrements around the job. Right? So it's a meaning of the job. You're right, they're giving them something very trivial and repetitive, where they don't grow and they don't get the sense of progress and the sense of increased mastery. It's not going to work. So a lot of rotations and changes, where it may seem costly to move them around. But what you get is retention, because they will say, I am growing here, I'm learning, and I want to, maybe I'll become a general manager, I'll become somebody who leads others. over time, as opposed to just being a good doer, a good producer, a good tech dude or gal. Okay. Well, just 1 second, if you allow me. The other thing that you see at the Googles and the Apples of the world is purpose. And the more sophisticated the competency, the more you see these people go like, what the hell are we doing this for? So you had a big scandal at Google when they were working, what's the name of that project? It's basically helping the Department of Defense in the United States with drone technology that is intended to go and kill people. And the question then becomes the ethical question of
Why?
Why, who, how precise, is it worth killing one to save 200? You know, treacherous ethical ground. But these guys, having this sense of meaning in what they do is a big deal. So the more you can frame their work in terms of what it does. And by the way, it doesn't have to be super lofty. Okay? It doesn't have to be super lofty. You see companies that do relatively mundane products. They find, Procter & Gamble. Anybody Procter & Gamble? Here, no? Yeah? You know? No, maybe. Perhaps. The other one. Okay. As an example, then I'll go to the next question. I'm sorry, I talked too much.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah, okay.
Everyone is engaged, I assure you.
Okay, very good. They say, so A.G. Lafley Procter & Gamble, this is not like, the products, detergents and such. He said, we improve the lives of ordinary people in small but meaningful ways every day. That's what we do. So if you are an engineer, if you are a materials engineer, you come up with a type of absorption in your material that makes that diaper better at keeping the moisture off the skin of the baby. What does that do? The baby doesn't develop a rash. Therefore, the baby doesn't cry as much. Therefore, the parent sleeps more. Happiness all around. Okay?
So you just brought a human element into an inanimate object, and so that's what you're saying is make that connection for anyone on your team about what you do and deliver.
The meaning, why? And honestly, with COVID, I think that's part of what we're seeing, the great resignation. All of these people that say, I'm not doing the things you want me to do anymore.
It's not worth it.
It's
I
not
don't
worth
get
it. It's just not worth it. Why? I mean, life is so fleeting. Why should I do that? That's what these guys want. So yes, somebody can lure them away from you with a bigger pay, bigger whatever it is. You have to do all the accoutrement around it. Chapter 3. It's a good question. So I think that the way I see it is at the two levels. One is the purpose of the enterprise. So there's a lot of people there. I'm not one of them, but my co-author Julie is one of them that really study, the three-way purpose of an organization. You say, well, there's its financial purpose because otherwise you die. And that's a bit of a problem there. There's also the impact on the community around it. I mean, I was listening to a show on the leather processing industry in Tuscany, one of the most beautiful places in the world, okay? I'll say without shame.
It is. It's gorgeous.
And you have these companies, and my mother comes from this town, that have been throwing chemical crap all over the place, all this time. Why? Because certain chemicals do the job faster, but they're more damaging, more toxic. And so, well, one way to think about purpose, you have power, to make decisions about what you're going to do. And in this case, one decision is to make a little less money to keep the soil of Tuscany and the health of the people in this town a little bit better. Can you bring yourself and your fellow leaders to make a little less money to do that? That's one way to think about it. And then you have the micro way, how you lead your people. And for me, that it comes down to, are you giving a chance to more people? Then they have to prove themselves, absolutely. But do they even get the chance? And job allocations, the role allocation, who gets the stretch assignments? Who gets the opportunities to learn? Are they always the same people? Are you going to take a risk once in a while when somebody doesn't look the part, maybe because their hair is too curly?
I'm feeling judged.
You're in good company.
Right? So, I mean, that's where it plays for me. That I just would like, some people really don't get much of a chance. What a pity. So, and by the way, if you do bring them up, everybody might do better anyway. It just takes more work and it takes a little more guts. That's where I see more kind of interpersonally.
So
What do you think? What do you see it?
Well, no.
How would you, if you had to pick one action that somebody in a leadership role with some power, maybe not as much as you would like, can do to use the power better, what would it be?
I think it's the theme of what we talked about today, and it's really around trying to harness humility, which we often, you get so busy and I got my head down and I have 100 meetings and I'm trying to do my email and focus on being here with all of you today. I'm not that important. So I think for me, it's like checking that ego daily and going, I'm not that important. Actually, my dog's more important in this moment. My kids who are on the phone, or my employee who's actually crying out for help, hopefully not what we heard at lunch, that they're on the verge of doing something real damage to themselves, but actually taking time to listen. Doesn't matter to whom or where, and saying no to some other meetings and saying yes to picking up the phone and calling more of my team. Not my direct reports, just people on the team.
I love that. And I would say that it takes a very centered person to do that. And so that's where the work, you have to have an awareness of the things that you are good at and contributing toward. And then you can accept the things that you're not good at. Because I have some strengths. I make some contribution.
I can put the golf ball in the hole.
Yeah,
Some days I can't.
There you go.
So this has been a really engaging, fun hour for all of us, and we can't thank you enough for joining us, for taking the time to write the book, and sharing it with all of us.
Thank
so
you.
It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you guys. Good job.
Well, a big thank you to both Sarah and Tiziana for taking the time to speak with our audience, both live at that conference, at the PO Leadership Conference, and now with you. Great interview, and it was a really enjoyable session. Listen, if you're interested in any of our The Way Forward live webcasts, please visit us at www.po-leadership.com. You'll find a number of our recorded past webcasts that include Kim Scott and Trier Bryant, Erica Dawan, Morgan Housel, Joe Jackman, Harry Kramer, Janice Stein, Dr. Greg Wells, Jason Self, Dr. Jason Self. Anyway, the list continues, goes on. We probably have over 25 sessions now recorded. And please, as always, leave us your feedback. Well, we hope to see you sometime in February. We'll be back live in February. And just wishing you all the best this month of January. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Focus Asset Management is a progressive wealth management firm. We strike a fine balance between embracing new investment ideas while holding firm to the principles which have resulted in long-term success. Trust and reputation are central to everything we do. We're employee-owned, we have investing in our DNA, and we invest exclusively alongside our clients. We offer investment strategies across multiple asset classes, including public and private options, which gives us the ability to meet your investment objectives. Our relationship with clients ranges from a single investment strategy mandate all the way to a comprehensive family office approach. We look forward to starting the conversation with you.